for the 4 types of users, then the conference initiation, and obviously do some housekeeping when there's the conference termination. So for each user, we need to identify each user uniquely, not only by the user type, but who that user is. Then we need to log entry and exit time, termination costs. And the 2 types of users that the law firm required are external, which are the clients, and the internals, which are the lawyers and the sysadmin. And the lawyers themselves were divided into agents, which are other lawyers, and the lawyer that owns the conference, which is the conference owner. I'm sorry, I'm going to rewind there. Most of the people who do know MeetMe as a standard application know that those many levels are not possible. But we're going to do some magic with basic, really. So another requirement that made us detour from the standard distribution is that they wanted the conference to start when the owner arrives. That's doable from a standard point of view. But they wanted the conference to end when the last agent leaves, meaning the last lawyer. So that we have a problem there. Then they needed DID management to assign DID to conference. That's being done using Asterisk real-time for dial plan management. And they needed reporting, total entry, time, exit, and so on and so forth. Recording on-off, that's also standard. It's not a problem there. And the web GUI, they needed to be very simplified, process-driven, and nothing complicated. I mean, they're lawyers. They're not telecom people. Thank God. And so we chose our Toolkit and our lead designer very well because he's quite crafty. And so we have Asterisk, obviously, MySQL. This is good for integration in terms of reporting and logging and so on and so forth. Real-time for dial plan management through the GUI. AGIs to process the beginning of the conference session. And obviously CMySQL, and we need to obviously talk about MeetMe because it's actually the wrapper. So the solution ends up being pretty much like this. We have external users logging into the conferences. All the information is stored in the database, obviously in MySQL. And then we have, there's actually this being separated because this way we can, that's why we have an AGI over there before in the Toolkit, because part of the authentication process is it's done on the IVR. And why not do that entirely in CMySQL? I mean, you can do that. And that's because we chose to detach all the dynamic conferencing from the IVR. So that way we can have the lawyers, we can allow the lawyers to keep fixed internal conference rooms, but externally they can manage and send different invitations, and then those invitations die and so on and so forth. So we have 2 tiers. Then internally the lawyers, there is obviously an agent that is the owner of the conference, that is the one that created and handed out the invitations, and also allowed the other lawyers with a PIN number to access or not his conference. And the importance there is that lawyers charge by the hour. So it's not the same to charge for a conference where there is only one lawyer than to charge for a conference that there was a tax lawyer, there was a something else lawyer, all those types. So they need to know who was part of the conference and how long it was there. And the other requirement was that the owner might be the one that gathered this law team and basically made a kickstart, like Ryan here. So, so he would leave the conference, probably to start another one, and he would be kind of a PM lawyer. And so they need that conference to keep on going, but they need that conference to begin only if the owner of the conference enters. Everything obviously is done through a very simplified GUI, and everything gets stored, also recordings. Now there's an admin user that is not part of the conference itself, that takes care of checking, billing codes. Okay, this many conferences were part of, last week's work. Okay, did you enter the billing codes? Because this needs to go to a specific client for a specific case. So this is, for those who don't know it, CVMySQL, and it's going to be easy for us to point out where the modifications were. So we have a user calling in. There's the DID management there. The segment between the incoming DID and the execution of CVMySQL is where you would place your specific IVR and where you would manage specific IVRs for different kind of lawyers, for instance. Then the dial plan executes CVMySQL. CVMySQL retrieves information from the database, and not only the PIN number. We retrieve pretty much everything. We retrieve all the configuration data, obviously all the flags that need to be triggered, and all the users that are allowed to enter this conference. And that is important because that is the way we will be identifying each user. Now, then that section is standard by CVMySQL. It requests, there's dialogue between CVMySQL and the user. We could add more dialogues there. It's always easier to put it outside on the IVR, but you could add it there. And then, obviously, MeetMe gets executed. And then the conference begins, it goes on, and it ends. But remember that CVMySQL is per channel based. So I'm really sorry about that. So this is a session for a specific user. It doesn't mean that the conference ends there. So if this was a user, it means that the conference either was kicked or left or whatever happened. And then that's also not in CVMySQL. We run all the updates on the database to store who left, when, and why is a different thing. And that's another problem. How do we detect how the user was kicked? And then this wouldn't be a CVMySQL modification conference, but it would be also a MeetMe modification conference. But that would be the hard way. And the easiest way is, since each lawyer administers his conference using a GUI, then it's easy to do using Asterisk Manager interface through the GUI. So the owner of the conference gets to see the list of the users, and he gets to mute, unmute, kick, or whatever he needs to do from the GUI. And then there you go. You don't have to modify MeetMe, which is very big, actually. And there's no need for it, which is more important. Then the conference for that particular user ends. So this is the user portal, meaning the portal that is accessed by a lawyer that owns several conferences. And basically over there you can see a conference going on with Joe, Jane, and something else, I believe, started. And we have the interface basically screaming to the lawyer, please enter billing codes. So basically they can add notes to it and the whole thing. This is actually the first prototype. And you can see that these are all unlocked, meaning that the admin user, the real admin user that takes care of seeing whether each lawyer entered the billing code or not, basically once all billing codes are okay for a specific session or a set of sessions, they lock them. So it's no longer in the user portal and everything gets cleaned. Well, there's a search area. It's very simple to use, very easy. Now the admin portal is easy as well. We're showcasing the main features because the rest are, pretty basic or common to every single application there is. So here we have all the conferences that went on for a specific amount of time, and so the admin user is allowed to log them or send reminders to the lawyers, please enter your billing code, we need money. So we have exceptions, those are the ones that are on top, and those are already logged and do not need any scrolling or browsing or anything. They're simplified on the bottom to give the admin user a resume of what's going on. And once I know I shouldn't do that, but I still do it. Once the admin user logs a set of conferences, that set of conferences becomes a report. And that report may have a single billing code because it's an important case, or were there many there were many conferences regarding that billing code, or he may actually accept many clients' conferences at the same time and create a single report. This is downloadable, it's exportable, and obviously is easily integrable through MySQL. I just jumped into the second case because it's kind of long. If you had any questions regarding this first application, it would be good if you could take notes and we could put them all together at the very end. Now, the multi-tenant medical dictation server, it's regarding the Dictate application. Now, this is a feature-rich IVR and a personalized IVR because it's a multi-tenant. So for each client, and even meaning a medical facility, and even for each group of doctors, and even for certain doctors, they might require a specific IVR. So this shouts for Asterisk real time. There's really no other clean way to address it. I mean, no. Okay, no text editors. And this is obviously integrated into the interface. A dynamic recorder simulator with rich inline features, and this is basically Dictate. But the problem is that the doctors require a specific keypad, and not only that, different medical facilities require different keypads. So some of them have a very simplified keypad, and some of them have a very extended one. And none of them is matches Dictate. So basically, we had to modify that. Obviously, extended volume for billing and reporting purposes, customized feature codes is what I talked about. And the initial production system is right now exceeding 8,000 login accounts. And I'm going to throw out there something else. We've been reported by our client that the doctors are able now to produce about 20% more billing time because of this. Basically, they're making their hallway time and corridor time productive, which in terms of doctors is profitable. So the dictation server has IVR management per user IVR.